Now, one thing that I have learned from you guys is that you cannot stand the fact that this car has pre-LCI taillights. If you guys remember, I actually used to have LCI taillights on this car, but they were these cheapy ones from eBay that had sequential blinkers on them. They looked all right, but they were not nearly as good as the new ones that SenCal Motorsport just sent to us. Now, these taillights really don't look too terrible, but the problem with mine in particular is they have just seen better days. Some of the lights are showing very, very faint cracks, while one of the other lights has a giant chip out of it. And if I'm gonna build this M3 the way that I want it to be built, it needs to be done right, and we need this rear end looking as good as possible. That's where my friends at SenCal Motorsport come in. And just look at how clean these taillights are. These taillights are going to make the rear end of this M3 look so much better. Huge thank you to SenCal Motorsport for sending these out. Now, I'm actually one of those people that is not completely bothered by the pre-LCI taillight design. I've sort of gotten used to the look of them. However, the LCI taillights just look cleaner. They look newer, they look refreshed, and the lights are so much more vivid. Not to mention, my pre-LCI taillights have just seen better days. There are cracks all over them. There's actually a chunk missing out of one of them. It was time to upgrade. All right, you guys, so here are the LCI taillights for the E92 M3. They look phenomenal. I've got to give a massive shout out to the guys over at SenCal Motorsport for sending those out. I'm going to have these linked down in the description, as well as a discount code. You guys can save yourself a little bit of cash when shopping with SenCal Motorsport. They have a ton of products for different BMWs, so if you're interested in shopping with them, make sure you check out the link down below, as well as the discount code. The quality on these is amazing. They look so good. So if you remember me talking about the ones that I had before that were actually from eBay, they weren't terrible, but the quality just really wasn't quite there. These LCI taillights look factory. They look OEM. If you also recall, my other LCI taillights that I had on the car before had these sequential blinkers. They're just not really my style. I wanted to go with something that was a little bit more representative of OEM, and so these ones do not have sequential blinkers. I've also got to say that these guys packaged these extremely well, and you can also see here that the wiring harness is included as well. So this is going to be a really easy install. Basically plug and play for E92 M3 LCI taillights. And honestly, with the amount of times that I've done this, I would guess that this install will probably take me 15 minutes. Do these look horrible? No. They don't look absolutely atrocious, but I just think the LCIs look better. And also, these are just in bad shape. I started to notice all of these little stress fractures all over here and inside of here, even on the corners over here. And then if we look over on this side, I actually have a giant chunk missing, which leaks water into the trunk. Yeah, definitely not good. This side as well, though, giant crack right here in the reverse section, as well as all of this cracking and stress fracturing through here. So yeah, it was definitely time. I also love the fact that on the LCI taillights, obviously this is one giant LED, so it's so much more vivid, and your reverse ends up being down here, which is kind of cool, and then this ends up being your blinker. It's just such a clean and like simple design. I think really on most of these cars, just like the LCI upgrades always look a little bit better. All right, so without further ado, it is time to get these installed. And we're going to start with the taillights that are in the top of the trunk portion. The fabric lining in the top is actually held in by a bunch of small plastic push pins. You're going to want to use a trim tool like this. It'll allow you to pull out those plastic push pins piece by piece. Don't forget the tiny trunk release handle, and once you remove that, you should be able to pull out the fabric. For those of you who didn't see the GTS wing install, you can now see all of the panel bond that I used in order to adhere the spacers that hold in the wing. And this is a very similar setup to the actual M3 GTS wing setup, except they have like a plate that goes down and it connects to the arm. But it's pretty cool to see the back end of this, and it's perfect. This thing has not moved at all. Super firm, no cracking, nothing. So you can see that this actually does work. When it comes to removing the trunk portion of these taillights, you're going to want to start out with this little 10 mil right here. You back it all the way out, and then there's a little plastic clip right here that we're going to pull out, and it holds the taillight against the inside of the skin of the trunk, obviously on both sides. And then what you want to do after you remove the little 10 mil here, you can push out the taillight from the top, and you'll be able to unplug it. And then of course you can remove it. The way that these taillights like to come out is they fold like this and then slide this way. It's a little latch on the inside right here, so that's what you're going to be sliding out from. All right, simple enough. Got both of them out, and this is what the pre-LCIs look like, specifically one with a chip in it. Let's go ahead and take a look at these up close next to the new ones. They just look so much cleaner. I also love how the LCI ones have just so much more depth to them. They're a little bit darker. These almost look like pink on the car. It's like a very, very light shade of red. And the LCI ones just have so much more clarity to them. It's gonna look so good. The other nice thing about these new taillights is they come with new brackets as well as new seals to make sure you don't get any water in there and that the brackets are completely fresh. If you look closely at my previous brackets, they are in fact cracked. So it's definitely nice that we got new ones. All right, so here is the new section for the trunk. We're gonna start on this side. Real simple, we took off the bracket with the 10 mil, and now we'll just go ahead and plug this into our factory harness. These are plug and play, which makes everything super easy. And the way that we want to actually put this into the trunk is we want to slide that side in underneath first. Then we will latch this bottom plastic piece against the skin of the trunk. Find the right little area, and it should fold all the way down just like that. The bracket in there will hold it against the trunk. And there we go. How difficult was that? Really not too bad. Make sure to put in the plastic bracket the correct way, and then just refasten that 10mm nut. Not too tight. I don't want to crack that plastic again. And all we got to do now is repeat the same steps for the right side. If you're finding that it's a little bit difficult to bend down the taillight into the correct position, whatever you do, don't force it. Just pull the taillight back out, reposition it, and gently press down again until you find the right seating position. Eventually, it will go into place. All right, everything is plugged in and seated properly, fits perfectly, no issues at all. Look at how freaking clean and perfect these look on this trunk. No weird gaps, nothing like that. Looks phenomenal. And now it's time to tackle the outer section of the taillights. First thing we gotta do is access the compartment where the back end of the taillight is located. There's a little fabric door. We're just gonna pop that off. And then you'll be able to see the plug that goes from the harness of the car into the back of the taillight. Go ahead and unplug that. On the passenger side, it's a little bit different. The battery is actually located over here, and we need to remove this entire little compartment piece. You just twist and turn the plastic dial up top, and you should be able to pull it right out. Same procedure as the driver's side. We just need to unplug the factory harness from the taillight. And then on each taillight, you're gonna find 3 8mm nuts. Remove those 3 nuts and you should be able to remove the entire taillight. It is possible your taillight will need a little bit of persuasion to come out. Just give it a bit of force and it should pop right out. Check it out, man. These things are cooked. Definitely time for an upgrade. And here you can see the differences between the LCI and the pre-LCI. Man, the LCI looks so much better. Just a cleaner design, much deeper color. This is gonna look amazing. Since the new LCI taillights are plug and play, there is going to be a wiring harness that comes along with the taillight. This basically allows us to use every function that the LCI taillight has with simply just plugging it into the factory harness. You're gonna have to feed that harness into the trunk so we can get that out of the way and put those 8mm nuts back on to secure the taillight into place. And you can plug our new harness into our existing harness in the car. And then we can go ahead and work on tucking the harness into the trunk liner. There is 3M that comes on the harness boxes, and you should be able to stick those to the inside of the frame of the car. This will make sure none of that harness is bouncing around when you are driving. Now all we have to do is throw the fabric liner back on and we are set. For the passenger side, it's pretty much the exact same process. Pop out those 8mm, remove the taillight, take a look at how jacked up your pre-LCI taillight is. This part is optional. And reinstall your sexy new LCI taillight. Throw back on those 8mm, plug in the taillight, and go through the same tucking process for the harness. On the passenger side, it's a little bit different because you have the battery there. I decided to use some zip ties to secure all of the wires in the boxes so they wouldn't move around everywhere. Throw back in that passenger side liner that covers the battery. And now all we got to do is throw that top trunk liner on. I like to do the plastic little handle first, and then I just work my way around and throw in all of the push pins one by one. Now that looks so much better. What a difference that makes. All right, so these look a million times better, but we are not quite done. Let's make sure that everything powers on, the blinkers and the reverse bulbs work, and then we'll get some shots in a little bit darker light to see how good these things look when they're actually illuminated. All right, so now it's time to make sure everything lights up properly. First, I'm going to test out the caution lights. perfect. Then I'm gonna test out the reverse lights. Looks good. Right indicator, left indicator, the brake lights. And that, my friends, is a job well done. Look at how much better this rear end on the M3 looks. I am in love with the LCI taillights. They just completely modernized the back end of this car. It's a little hard to tell on camera because the LEDs will always show up flickering in the film, and some of the LEDs actually look orangish in the video, but they are not. Trust me, everything is deep, deep, pure red, and especially with this satin titanium wrap, I think it just looks so good. 10 out of 10 product I would definitely recommend. Huge shout out to SenCal for sending these out. I definitely think these are a necessary modification for this M3. Look at how good these turned out. I think it makes the rear end of this car look so much better. Super easy install, and the quality on these is fantastic. Again, huge shout out to the guys over at SenCal Motorsport. Use my code ThickWhip to get you guys a discount on any of the products offered by SenCal. They have a huge variety of products, and this is not the last time that you're gonna see them on this channel. We have something else new coming for this car. It's going to be crazy. But anyways, you guys, that is going to wrap up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I also have a bunch of merch linked down below, but that will effectively wrap up today's video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.